Am I live?
Yes.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to show you the butter tarts that I made last week and again this week because I have no control. And a few of you have already asked if I could do the recipe. So I posted the recipe on Facebook and I'll have it on Instagram in a little bit. But I thought I would show you how I made it and then we're going to go from there. So we're going to make the dough first. We chill it, and then we're going to make the filling, and then it will go into the oven. And I have some already made. They're in the fridge because you can't eat them out of the oven because they're kind of molten, and it's a little dangerous. So there you go. So why am I doing this? I don't know. It's a crazy world out there at the moment, and I thought, what the hell? So bear with me. This is my first Instagram Live. Rowan is on the camera, so if you have any questions, she's going to ask those sort of things. So we're going to start with the dough. Dough is pretty basic. I use what is called a pâté brisé, which is a very short crust, so there's no need for shortening. You can use shortening. It will give it a little different texture, but I like a short crust with just straight butter, which I'll need to get out. Fridge. Excuse the mess of my life, but you know, I'm in quarantine with my kids and my dogs and my cat and my bird, which you'll probably hear at some point. So it is what it is. So we have some butter here, and that's unsalted butter. If you use salted butter, that's fine, but you don't need to add salt to the recipe.
Apparently we're frozen.
We're frozen.
As HBO says, I see your picture, but you're frozen.
Oh, I'm frozen. Okay, hold on a second. We'll try something real quick. Did that work? Excellent. Okay, so I took you off Wi-Fi. Apparently our Wi-Fi is not great. We live on the top of a hill. What can I say? Okay, so just in a basic bowl, we're going to make a crust that's going to make 12 butter tarts. So it's a cup of all-purpose flour or any flour that you happen to have at home. So I have a cup and a quarter. And yes, I have flour. I know it's hard to get, but when you buy it by 50 pounds, you tend to have it around the house. And then I'm going to add a tablespoon of brown sugar. Again, if you don't have brown sugar, white sugar will do. This just gives it a little bit of a caramel flavor to the dough. There. We're going to use a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And we'll just put that in there. And then I'm just gonna mix it up. Break up the brown sugar. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the butter. You want it to be nice and cold. To make pastry dough, you need your ingredients to be cold. What that will do is when it bakes, it will steam off any water and will give you that nice light flaky crust. So we want a nice light flaky crust. We're just going to keep cutting. And yes, I know I'm not wearing gloves, but since it's my own and my kids are eating it, it's okay. Okay. So now I'm putting butter into the dough, into the flour. Now, you can cut the dough into the flour a couple ways. You can use a Cuisinart mixer, or you can use forks, or you can use your fingers. I'm going to use a pastry cutter because it's easy and nice and quick. And you're just basically going to cut by pressing down on the butter and just turning the bowl as you go. You go around and around. And here comes my other daughter who doesn't realize that we're live. So she may disappear, she may not. So we're just gonna go and keep going. And you want it to get it to a large pea size. You don't want them too big, but you also don't want them too small, because if they're too small, then they'll just melt and you won't get that nice flaky crust. But you also don't want them too big because then they're butter, so they would become a little bit greasy. So we don't want that either. So as if you look, we've got nice big piece size, and so it's like kind of a oatmeal-y. And you could, you know, if you want to get it smaller, but you don't need to get much smaller than that. And then what you're just gonna do is I'm gonna get a 1/4 cup of ice cold water, so I like to get it right from the fridge. And try not to spill it all over my floor. So, and then I'm just gonna mix it like that. And you get it to a point where it's coming together but not completely together. And this is where you kind of got to get into it. You mix till it starts to come together. Ooh, lost some. Okay, and then once it comes a little bit more together, you can put it down on the board. And then you're just gonna bring it together. And the more you work with your hands, the butter's gonna soften a little bit and allow it to come together. Now people say don't overwork your dough, which is true, but because the butter is really cold, you won't have that problem of getting the dough that just kind of falls flat, so to speak. And the key really is cold butter. And come together. Just use some. Okay. Okay. So, now if I was making a pie, I would wrap this up and stick it in the fridge for 15 to 20 minutes. But what we're gonna do is actually we're gonna roll it out, because I'm gonna cut it and then put it into the muffin pan, and that will, and stick that in the fridge, and then that will allow it to rest. So I am using my great-grandmother's rolling pin. It's my favorite. It's one piece. I love it. And we're gonna get it to whatever thickness you like. And if you look at the dough, you can see a little bit of brown sugar in there, but you can also see that the butter is still intact. So it hasn't melted, which is great, which is what we want when we're making a short crust. And that will give you that lovely flaky crust. So we're just a little bit less than 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to use a 4-inch cutter. If you have, this is a cookie cutter or a biscuit cutter, that will work as well. And then basically, I'm going to take our muffin tin, and I'm going to spray the muffin tin with some oil. And then I'm just basically going to cut and place in. And they don't have to be perfect. Remember, it's just for you. It's not like you're selling them. So you cut them, you go around. Anybody have any questions? And that's okay if you don't. See, like that one's not perfect, but you know, it'll work. I know this is the tedious part, was watching all this. And then I just bring them back together. This is why you don't make a big amount of dough. You do 12 at a time. Otherwise, you'll have to keep bringing it back together. And every time you bring it back together, the butter will soften, and then it will cause problems. So we don't do that. So I make smaller batches of dough, which is good because making 24 butter tarts in a family of 4.
Someone has to ship to Toronto.
Somebody has to ship to Toronto. The last time I tried to ship to Canada was a nightmare from here. So I'd love to say yes, but and I've never shipped a butter tart, so I don't even know what that would be like. And we should get, oh, I've done them just a little bit thinner. I might have been able to do it. I might be able to get the last one out. This can be the tester at the end. Okay. There's always that one that's a little bit raggedy. There we go. 12. Perfect. Ish. That's right. Hands real quick. Stick these in the fridge. My fridge is full of not much. Okay, and then I'm just gonna clean this up real quick. Get this out of the way. Okay, so now we're gonna make the filling. Now today I'm making it with maple syrup. If you don't have maple syrup, you can use corn syrup. And that will give you the more traditional, but my kids decided and my husband decided yesterday that they prefer the maple. So I'm using Canadian maple syrup because that's what I have. So we're going with a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Let's do that first. So put the maple syrup in and then have to do the brown sugar. So go in here. All right, and you want to pack it down so you get a nice solid piece. And then we're going to get the same amount of, as I look at that, that's a 1/3. Hold on a second. That's not gonna help. See, I knew I'd make a mistake. So there we go. Rowan was worried I was gonna make a mistake, and I did, so we'll just put that back. So here we go, try that again. That didn't look right. There we go, 1/2 cup. And then we'll go, because I'm not doing the math, trying to figure out the difference between a 1/3 and a 1/2. So I don't have to take math now. That's what measuring cups are for. All right, put that in there. And then we're gonna take some salt. 1/4 teaspoon. And then we're going to use vanilla. Now you can use regular vanilla extract. I'm using bean paste because that's all I have. And I'd measure it out, but again, you lose more when you measure it, so I'm just gonna give it a little bit of dollop. But you want about a teaspoon.
Never have too much vanilla.
You can never have too much. Well, you can, but as Ron said, you can never have too much vanilla, but you can. And then I'm gonna mix that together. And I'm gonna take 2 eggs, and I crack them in a different bowl because if you have shell and stuff.
Auntie Mary says I'm right.
Oh, Auntie Mary says she's right. Well, And that's my fridge that I left open. And then another one. Oh, look at that. And then there's shell. Okay. Okay. And then I pop the eggs in there. Now what makes them butter tarts? Butter. So I think it should be melted now. So now I'm going to take a 1/4 cup of melted butter. And then I'm going to add it to the sugar. So you really want to mix it really well. Okay, so there is our innards. And this will give us that medium runny consistency. So it's got a little bit of runniness, but it's not, when you use 1 egg, if you want them really runny, just add 1 egg and that will have it literally falling out of your tart. Not there.
Someone asked, is there an American version of butter tarts, or is it just a Canadian thing?
I believe it's just a Canadian thing, but
Sugar pie.
It's sugar pie, basically, if you're from the South, or pecan pie without the pecans, as it were. I'm sure there's a small variation, but Canadians call them butter tarts. And there was a place near my parents' house
Betty's.
called Betty's, and she made the best butter tarts, but she was not the nicest person on the planet. So, although we love them, she wasn't real fun to be around. So, and since I'm not in Canada at the moment, and needing a little bit of home, so I'm just piercing the bottom of the tart shells. That allows the steam to come up from underneath and helps cook the bottom of, because I'm cooking the pastry at the same time as I'm cooking the innards. So it helps cook the bottom of the pastry. And that's the reason why I put it into this container, measuring cup, because now I can pour it. You can scoop if you don't have a pouring measuring cup, but this is definitely easier. So, and we're gonna pour about 3/4, sometimes a little bit more, just depending on how you're pouring. And you're gonna fill all of them up. This is like the, what, 4th or 5th batch I've made. So my kids are
The past week.
loving the butter tarts. I, however, am not. I mean, I'm loving them. I'm just, the body's going, oh, let's just put that there. Put that there. Okay, so we got a little bit left here. Just gonna use spatula. Some brown sugar that didn't break up all the way, so I'm gonna just take that piece out.
Oh, you're be offended by this one. No raisins.
No, and that's probably my sister as well. No, I don't do raisins. Raisins are, yeah, I think raisins are gross. So, if you'd like to put raisins or walnuts or chocolate chips or of any other kind, that you feel free. They would go in the bottom before you put the filling. Okay, so they're super simple. I mean, really easy. Now you're going to stick them in a 425-degree oven for 15 minutes. Your pastry should be golden brown around the top. That's how you'll know that it's done. And they will, when you look at them, they'll come up out of the tin and then they will drop back down once you take them out and cool. So they go into the lower third of the oven few minutes on the timer, and then they will come out. Nobody wants to wait for that, so these are the ones that we made yesterday.
Someone said raisins are gross, also known as hamster brains.
Hamster brains, I like that. I call them bugs. Drives people crazy when I call them bugs because, I mean, honestly, they look like a bug. When I was a kid, I bit into cotton candy and there was a bee on it, so I actually know what a bug tastes like. And that's just wrong. So we have two different kinds here. This is the regular kind. So you'll see that the sugar bakes differently. This is maple. Now they're cold because you want to keep them in the fridge. I'll just slice one here for you. So you can see that we have a medium runny. So there's runny, but the top part is nice and firm. If they last the evening, you stick them in an airtight container. You have to let them cool completely out of the oven because if you don't, no good will come into biting into molten sugar. And then you stick them into an airtight container. You can look at me now. You don't have to look at the butter tarts. Stick them in an airtight container, and they will stay in the fridge for 4 to 5 days. Or you can stick them in the freezer, and they will freeze beautifully for up to 3 months. And then you can just take one out in the morning, and you can have a butter tart for dinner.
Dinner.
Dessert. Sure. Hey, it's quarantine, man. You can do whatever you want. And there goes the maple one for Rowan. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I will post the recipe onto Instagram and Facebook. It's already there on Facebook because that's all I could get done before we did this. If you have any questions, you can shoot me a direct message. If you would like me to try something else, I normally teach how to decorate cookies. Sugar cookies are my thing. But unfortunately, not a lot of people wanting to come over and decorate cookies with me at the moment. So I can certainly do a course on decorating, or if there's something else you'd like to learn, how to make bread. My great-grandmother's bread is to die for. So I'm happy to try this again because it wasn't as nerve-wracking as I thought it was going to be. Anyways, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it, and hope everybody stays safe and stays well and stays home.